Hey everybody, welcome back to the Monday Q&A show, the show that is here to answer your questions, help you out, and hopefully make you a little smarter in the airsoft world. I'm your host, Jonathan Higgs, and I am here to help you guys and gals by putting questions in the comment section. That's your job, and my job is to do my best to try to answer them. I've been airsofting for quite a while, longer than I care to admit, and I'm here to hopefully help in the ways. If you guys are first time here, shows a bunch of your questions. Toward the end, I've got video recommendation of the week that comes from you. It can also be your own channel. I'm trying to support all the YouTubers out there and make the whole community bigger. Also, if you want to support the show, I do have a web store with patches, and I've got a bunch of designs here. I've got some logo patches. I've got this one. Let me get my hand out of the way. I got my logo. I got kind of some fun stuff, and I got some tactical doggos. I actually got like 13 or 14 different designs out there. Web store, links in the top over here or down below in the comment section. Free shipping worldwide. So the price you see is the price you pay, no matter where you live in the entire world. Aside from that, now that you know how it works and what's going on, let's dive on into what you're really here for, and that's your questions that come from the comment section down below in the Tippmann mail call. Jonas Graham Lang writes, "Hey Jonathan, love the Q&A show. Got a question for you. How does you see people transport their airsoft replicas, and what's your opinion on the subject? In Denmark, where I live, more and more restrictions, rules are being made against airsoft because people are transporting their replicas the wrong way. The result is the fields are closing and it's getting harder to play because of the law. How could this be solved? And, you know, maybe people who don't play change their point of view." This was one I really never had to worry about when I lived in the US because I could just pull my car in the garage, load it up with my gun bags and everything else, and just drive to the field or the shop, always having them in a bag and really limiting the exposure of it outside in front of my neighbors and everyone else. But now that I moved, I take public transportation, it's out in the public, and I'm also in a country where firearm ownership is not legal. So it does change quite a bit, so I am a lot more conscious. I try to pick gun bags that don't look so much like a gun bag. The hard cases, don't slap a bunch of tactical stickers on them. I know I've done that in the past because it looks cool, and I was able to throw it in the back of the car, no problem. There are just a few other things I do. I mean, you can go to the extreme if you are in a very kind of an area where it's really looked down upon to own a gun or even airsoft, or you're worried about it, then I would look into getting some, there's rifle cases that look like guitar bags or like piano case bags, things like that, very nondescript looking. You can get those. Basically, the more basic, the better. Also, try not to wear your tactical gear out. If you're casual carrying a big bag, people aren't gonna notice it that much, especially if it's like black instead of like camo or green. I know it's an investment, but these are smart things. And try not to get the gun bag that is shaped like a gun, you know, where it's kind of pointy on one end, gets fat on the other. Stick with the rectangle ones. Usually those are pretty good to go, and try to avoid a lot of molly on the outside. Just some tips, at least, to minimize the exposure, because when you're carrying something around that looks like a gun bag, people still think it's a gun, right? So if you carry something like this, it may be a keyboard, it could be tennis rackets, it could be guitar, it could be anything like that. So just my thoughts. Just remember, everything out of the public eye, they don't know if it's real or not. Orange tip or no. It looks like a gun, they're gonna think it's a gun, and it's bad news for the hobby, the sport, and for publicity that way. So just keep it covered out of the public eye, and you should be good to go. Again, you can't fix stupid. People are going to make mistakes. The good players like us aren't going to do this. We're going to put it in the right bag. The ones that don't know any better or just don't care are the ones that are still going to continue. So I think education is important. If you see it, speak to that player. If it's at a shop, have the shop owner do it. If it's a field, have the field owner do it. If you're out in public, go say something to them, you know, do what you can to help minimize the exposure of airsoft in the public so we all can keep playing and not have laws made against us where we can't play the hobby we love so much anymore. Tommy Mendoza writes, will there ever be a 5-day or week-long Milsim? How do you think it would work out? There actually is one in Europe called Berget, or is it Berget? I think it's Berget. I don't know if it's French pronunciation or the T silent, I don't know. But it's called Berget, and they've been doing it for a long time, like over a decade now, I think. Very popular, huge event, and it lasts all week long. Some players, of course, just coming in for the weekend, for the big parts. some staying for the whole event. If you're looking for something stateside, like US or another country, it could be tough. Here's why. You have to get vacation time. A lot of times people have family obligations, things like that. You have school, you've got all these things going on. To be able to coordinate a week-long Milsim op, even in the summertime, I think the turnout would be lower. It could be cool, but it could be lower. Also, to find a place to play, if you want to play at like a base or a tactical training facility, could be expensive to rent out for an entire week versus just a weekend where maybe it's a lot less money, and that could really drive the ticket price up from like $200 to $400 or even $500 depending on where this is. The closest thing in the States I've seen so far is Milsim West has done a 3-day, 72-hour op, which was nonstop, and I know a lot of people really loved it. I don't know if they've done those lately though. They had done them in the past. They do mainly 48-hour ops now, but they have done the 72, the 3-dayer out there, and I think some people like it. It's more the extra level, one extra day, so a little more hardcore. But I think also you have to pack so much, bring so much in. There has to be something. I think Berget does it well because you have more of a community and camping. It's not like hardcore like Milsim West is. It's a little more soft version of it, and you have like kind of safe zones you can kind of camp in and things like that. So I think it's possible. I think it could work out. I think it would be a smaller op just for the number of people who could coordinate their vacation time. Taking a week off work is not easy and it's expensive. And typically you get maybe 2 weeks of vacation a year, if you're a full-time employee. So it could be a hard one to pull off for a lot of people. And then you got, like I said, the family, the wife, the girlfriend, everybody yelling at you going, why are you burning up vacation to go play Airsoft? And, a lot of us aren't, I'm lucky, but some guys aren't lucky where they have someone who really understands their hobby. So yeah, just kind of my thing, my thoughts on it. I think it's absolutely possible if you want to maybe get an expectation of like 100 players and do something really cool. I think it would be possible. I think somebody like Milsim West could pull it off. I think a major promoter could do it, but the cost would be a lot. I mean, a lot. But I think to offset the cost, there could be some cool things provided, like vehicles and maybe food and things like that. They can actually maybe set up, bring in rent tents, things like that, like actual GP, like the big tents. I don't know, just some thoughts there. Anyway, my thoughts on it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you guys think it could work in the States or it could work somewhere else outside of Europe, I think it's very successful there. Maybe somebody could take that model and drop it into the US and call it Berget West. And who knows, maybe we got an idea there. I'd love to see someone, or maybe the guys come over, promote on that, bring it over to the stateside and make it happen. I'm curious to hear what you guys and gals say about long form Milsim events in the comment section below. Toxic Parallax YT writes, is there a tracer unit worth the money, as I really want to get one, but I don't know if I should get one? And also, do you need tracer BBs to use a tracer unit? So yeah, answer the easy one first for you here. You do have to have tracer BBs for a tracer unit to work. They're glow in the dark. As the BB passes through the tracer unit, it strobes bright light. It illuminates that glow in the dark BB, and that's where you get the tracer effect, the little green laser beam or the BB flying in the air. So for me, I'm gonna give you the short version. Outdoor during the daytime, it's really not worth it. You're limited to BB weights. Tracer BBs, now you can get them heavier now, normally are 0.25s or 0.20s or lighter weight BBs. If you like to run heavier weight, they're harder to find. You can get them. They actually have very heavyweight ones. Also, they can get very expensive too. Tracer BBs typically cost more because they have to put glow-in-the-dark material in the BB itself. Two, the bio ability. Usually it's really hard. I think maybe a couple companies are doing bio tracers now, but not many. It's, again, hard to find and expensive. So those are all the downsides. The positive is if you're gonna play night games, outdoor, indoor, doesn't matter, or indoor games, even during lit, like where the field is lit up, those are great times to have it. I find that even playing indoor, it's usually, there's lights, but it's not incredibly bright, and you can see your BBs a lot better. You can watch them hit your target and bounce off your target, especially if you're running a camera. Oh, they're great. They show up on camera, fantastic. You can actually take the color of the BB. Typically it's green. You can get them in red and other colors and just pop it in post, and they really shine so people can watch the BB, boom, hit the target and bounce off. Scope cam works the same. Oh, it works fantastic. So I think even as a player though, having that tracer BB is so nice to have indoor. In fact, that's a tracer unit on the end of that vector right there, that little tiny thing on the end. That's one on there. I've got a couple of the new ones that Mad Bull, the licensing for Mad Bull, the Daniel Defense. It's not Daniel Defense. It's the oh, what is it? The Fire Pig one, the little sound amplifiers. They're putting the new little micro tracers in there, the actual Ace Tech ones, and they are great. That's what's in here, one of the little tiny Ace Tech ones. So now you can get this tiny, tiny little tracer unit that's rechargeable through USB that works really well. And you get bigger ones too, of course. I'm a big fan of though. I think Ace Tech really is dominating the market when it comes to tracer units right now. I've got actually quite a few of them on various guns. I love them, and I play a lot of indoor now, so that's what I choose to use. So yeah, I think it's worth it if you play indoor or you play night games. If you play outdoor during the daytime, it's not worth it for you, to be honest. I wouldn't make that investment. Nathan Fix writes, what was your first and favorite gun? So my first gun I played with was a Tokyo Marui G3SG1. I remember I got it, I upgraded it, and I think I've told the story a few times now, to like 320 or 330 feet per second, because Tokyo Marui guns are below 300 because they're less than 1 joule, sub 1 joule power. I was so happy. I loved it. I bought it because of the movie Heat. Val Kilmer's character uses it on the rooftop. I just was like, oh, I gotta have a G3SG1. I think my favorite gun right now, oh man, I've had so many over the years, like custom ones, like shops like Airsoft Berget have built, custom guns that I've built. I think my favorite of all time, if there's like one I really miss and regret getting rid of, I would have to say it's my AUG. I had an old Classic Army AUG from like 8-9 years ago, maybe now 10 years, and I put the big Phantom kit on it, which had all the foam in it, like the integrated suppressor and a super long barrel, and I upgraded it, and it was just this whispering, quiet thing. I actually put Dynamat inside the body, so it brought the sound level of the mech box down when it was next to your ear, because the mech box sits right next to you because it's a bullpup design. I think I missed that one the most. I've never rebuilt it. I may get one, actually. Make it a Tokyo Marui and rebuild it or something. I don't know. Or probably get an ASG AUG, actually, and do a rebuild off that. Get the licensed one. Support licensed. But yeah, I think I'm going to do that route. I just really kind of miss it now that you mentioned it. So I think it's my favorite of all time. I guess just because nostalgia, I guess. My second favorite, probably my 249, my saw. I just had it upgraded. It was shooting right at field limits, and it was just perfect. I couldn't tell you how many hundreds of thousands of rounds I ran through it. So those are my two favorites and my first. Well, that's it for questions this week, which means it is time for the Code Red Headsets video recommendation of the week. And this one, we're going to give to Jonas Graham Lang. He answered the first question in the video here. We're going to give him that because if I reveal that last little chunk at the very bottom, it says, I would love to recommend a Danish YouTube channel who's doing a great job and love his videos. It's Airsoft Misfits Airsoft DK. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about this video is we talked about long format Milsim games, like the big week-long ones, and it just so happens when I was checking out their channel, they've got something from Berget. So they've got gameplay from the Berget game, the big, long, week-long Airsoft event. So I was like, this is just perfect. So it kind of ties in with everything, the questions we have this week, and I couldn't help. And then I started going through their channel. They've got some unboxings, they got some kind of mini reviews, and of course gameplay on their channel. And these guys are good. Actually, this is Berget number 16, so this is the 16th year they've been doing it from this one. Again, great channel, worth the sub. I mash the sub button on all these whenever I watch them. I'm like, yeah, it's definitely worth the sub. My subscriber, every week I add at least one new one because of your guys and gals recommendations. And if you guys like what you see here, the video is playing over top of me, definitely hit the sub button over there on their channel, and also put a comment under one of their videos. Let them know that I sent you over there. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching as always, for here the show. If you guys have a question, you can always put it in the comment section below this video. I'll be answering them next week. And of course, videos from your channel or a channel you love. I do promote self-promotion of your own channel, so do that. Also, don't forget web store. I got a bunch of patches, these plus a ton more, free shipping worldwide. Like I said, link is down below. And of course, I think it'll pop up here at the very end of the video, a little picture of the dog or something over here in the corner. So anyway, until next time, go out, play some Airsoft, have some fun. But no matter what you do, call your freaking hits.